Hi, I'm Lisa Chastain, and welcome to the Real Money Podcast. Some of the most successful women in the world hate talking about money, and that's exactly why we're here. My mission is to remove fear around finances by creating a simple, effective way to manage your money and build the financial freedom you deserve. As a keynote speaker, best-selling author, and passionate coach, I will be sharing my insights on overcoming money challenges, coaching women live on air, and interviewing some of the most accomplished women to learn from their experiences. So, say goodbye to fear, say goodbye to budgeting woes, and welcome to Real Money. All right, Real Money community, buckle your seatbelts because today is going to be a hot topic conversation and I'm so ready for it. And this is the conversation that as women today we're having all over social media. And I've brought two women that I respect and that I know to lean into a conversation specifically for women. But men, if you're listening, listen in because you have women in your life that you love and you get to hear this too. We are diving into the conversation of hormones and wellness for women and how the industry is changing right here, right now. And I'm so grateful that you're here. So welcome to the Real Money Podcast, Rachel and Tabitha.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Yeah, and for our listeners, let me just explain to them who you are, and then we're just going to get into the conversation. Rachel and Tabitha are in Las Vegas alongside me, so we're Las Vegas sisters, and I'm not actually sisters to them, but they're sisters. And they've just launched, earlier this year, launched Halcyon Wellness right here in Las Vegas. This episode is really geared for you as a listener to hear about how you cannot afford to ignore your health. And we're going to talk about how your hormonal wellness is fueling your financial power. I believe that to my core, especially for women you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. Here's my question for you today. What if the real reason you can't get ahead financially is because of your hormones and your hormones being out of whack? You may not realize that, but we're here to tell the truth about how your hormones are impacting your quality of life today. Meet Rachel. Rachel is a board-certified physician assistant, co-founder of Halcyon. She isn't your average medical provider. She's a powerhouse in the wellness space with nearly 20 years of experience across high-stakes specialties like emergency medicine, neurosurgery, urology, and endocrinology.
A mouthful.
Yeah, it is. After working inside a broken healthcare system that treats symptoms instead of people, Rachel flipped the script. She now leads with a whole body root cause approach that helps her clients feel radically better mentally, physically, and hormonally. Sign me up. Her personal journey with hormone imbalance ignited a deep passion for bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. That's a mouthful, but we're going to talk about what that is. And for the past 7 years, it's been her mission to help others reclaim their energy, vitality, and clarity through personalized concierge level care. That might be a new term for you as a listener, but I want you to really hone in on that because concierge care is exactly where the industry is changing right here, right now. And I can't wait for you to hear from Rachel. Alongside Rachel today, we've got her sister, Tabitha Simmons. Tabitha is a friend of mine. We were in a writing workshop a year ago, which is how we met. And I heard about the concept of Halcyon, but it really hadn't opened yet. But here we are, real time. It's open. I got to spend time there. Tabitha is the co-founder of Halcyon, an attorney by trade, self-proclaimed as a problem solver, which I love. I love that. She's a wellness visionary and advocate for personalized concierge level care. Passionate advocate for female empowerment. We are all on that train today. Let's dive in. Welcome to Real Money, ladies.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so for my friends listening, you think it's just age, but it's your hormones. And I have women's wellness retreats that I do where we talk about how something happens. We wake up, we're 30, 35, 40 years old, and we feel like we've been hit by a Mack truck. And the way that women's wellness has been modeled to us is that's just age, that's just menopause, that's just the way it is. But all of a sudden we're gaining weight, we're sluggish, we don't feel good, we have all these symptoms. But Rachel, that's hormonal.
Yes.
And what is that telling us? What is it telling us? What is our body trying to tell us?
Well, that there's disruption occurring. So I think that, we are taught through, our primary care doctor, or whatever physicians that we've seen throughout our life, either a gynecologist, that most things that we experience are normal. We're kind of dismissed in that sense. It's just like, well, I have really horrible periods. They're painful. I'm depressed. I can barely get out of bed. Well, that's just, take some ibuprofen, drink some water, go back to bed. That's like the answer. And unfortunately, what that's really telling the physician is that there is an imbalance happening there. It shouldn't be that you have to put your life on hold every single month for 3 days because you're bleeding and in pain and depressed and can't get out of bed.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Just because you're a woman. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and we've accepted that. And so they've trained us to believe that it's normal and that we should just suck it up. And they're just ignoring that. And the part of that in their defense, they're not trained to look at people. I wasn't trained to look at people this way until, 10 years into my career, that we need to listen to the symptoms, that the symptoms are cues that something underlying is happening. And that sometimes the laboratories that we like to check to confirm what we're thinking aren't going to give us the answers that we hope. And instead of trying to pay attention to just numbers on a page, actually looking at the patient sitting in front of us and having a conversation about what they're going through and understanding how you could potentially help to, improve their quality of life and well-being.
Well, that's novel, right? Yeah. I learned actually through a conversation with Tabitha and then also my other friend who's a concierge health primary physician is that in medical school, doctors are trained to only spend 7 minutes with a client or with a patient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. How can you get anything done? And we've all felt like that cattle being herded. Appointment after appointment, you hear them next door to you, you're being rushed out. Basically, you wait for an hour to see a doctor and then they're there with you for 5 minutes, or a nurse practitioner or physician assistant, and then they're gone. For you, I'm guessing you've had moments, wake up calls yourself, and at some point you said enough is enough. What happened for you to decide that it was time for you to transition to concierge health?
It ended up being that the way that I was practicing medicine was just crazy making. I was kind of regurgitating a lot of information that I was told to my patients, and there was no heart behind it. I didn't feel that. I was like, this is what I have to tell you to get through the appointment so I can get on to the next patient. And they weren't getting better. I mean, what's the whole point of being in medicine if you can't help improve a person's life? It really, I mean, to be honest, it started with something super simple. I was treating many women with probably something you've experienced once in your life, recurrent urinary tract infections. Uh-huh. So, they were having infection after infection, maybe one a month and on antibiotics. And every time they would come in and I would consult with other physicians, they would tell me, well, try a different antibiotic. So that was the answer, just more antibiotics. And I thought, there has to be a reason this is happening. We can't just give antibiotics ad nauseum to people. But that's what they wanted me to do. And I thought it was asinine. So that's when I started to search for other options for my patients. And one doctor kind of like off the cuff was just like, oh, some patients some doctors like to use vaginal estrogen for UTI prevention. I don't know if it really helps, but you could try that. That was kind of what he said. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. But then when it was working, I was like, how is this working? Why is it working?
Right.
Let me figure that out. So that's when I kind of launched myself into this journey of learning more about hormones and how they operate in the body, and finding that I could actually help people. And then what was happening was these patients were coming into the office seeking out me, not my supervising physician, because I was actually affecting change in their life, mm-hmm. where most of the other physicians were just ineffectual. So.
And what I learned, because I run a mastermind group here in Las Vegas, and we had the privilege of being able to spend a day at Halcyon. We're going to talk a lot about what Halcyon offers. What I learned from that conversation Tabitha shared is that UTIs are a result of low estrogen.
Correct. I mean, there's lots of reasons, but that's a major one.
Yeah. And so women are taught, I know this is how I was raised, that it was my fault. I wasn't taking care of myself well enough.
Yeah.
I have to make sure I wipe or go to the bathroom after I have sex. Like it's all my fault that I didn't do something right. And cranberry juice was the only answer.
Yeah, instead of teaching you that, it's a complex system, we are complex systems made up of complex systems, and there's a pH balance that is necessary to maintain a healthy vaginal environment. And so teaching you that and explaining to you how your actions may or may not impact that is where the conversation should be, rather than wipe differently, pee after sex,
I love that, which is a great transition, because also it's my belief, and I know we share the same belief, that really the healthcare system today is a sick system, not a health care system.
Yeah.
We're taking care and perpetuating sickness, and you're on a mission to create wellness. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, Tabitha, how much is it costing women to not feel good in their bodies?
Everything. It's funny because Rachel and I have a hormone guru crush, and she posted something. She is a very big following. She's a huge voice in women's health and in hormones specifically. And she's, speaking all across the country all the time. And she said, this is an anecdotal study. This is not me conducting a scientific experiment, but I've had several women come and say to me, I started my business because I was on testosterone. And I think that's true. I think it's true. Think about how you felt if you are someone, or think about if you are someone that had very heavy, terrible periods, and how that impacted your well-being, how it impacted your ability to confront the day, to check, to check things off your list. If you're someone that had trouble during childbirth, and your hormones tanked right after, and the feelings that you were confronted with because of that, it's almost impossible, to take the next step forward. And that's really what we're dealing with. That's really what's happening when you're not paying attention to your body's cues, when you aren't partnering with a medical practitioner that can really look at your whole system and see that your hormones are balanced or not, and support you in getting to that place. It's a matter of living fully or not. It really is. And we all have hormones. It is not abnormal to experience an imbalance. And the world is changing, and there's a lot of things that are influencing our hormones. And so when imbalances are happening, not just in your 50s and 60s, but at every stage in life, So yeah, it's life or death as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, because women, we have woken up as women. We've woken up to the reality that we can have independence. We can have financial independence. We can have financial success. We can have businesses. You both just opened this business. And we've also been taught that we have to suck it up when it comes to our health, or that we're crazy. Some women, my grandmother was basically told she was crazy, and I'm sure it was a hormonal imbalance, and no one had the tools to help her work through it, so they did what they could do. But we have to shake up the conversation about wellness altogether, because if you're just going for care when you're sick, you're missing a huge part of what you need to be doing. Actually, the whole thing, to your point, which is wellness.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, Rachel will tell you this, but the word hysterectomy, right, is its origin is hysteria. And this is not some, major feminist movement. This is actual facts. Women have been ignored for centuries when it comes to their health and their just experience, right, medically. So, even as late as the 90s, women were excluded from research, medical research. Rach, you can speak to this. But it's really just recently that we're starting to include women in in studies on health. Before, we were just treated like mini men. And just think about the impact of that, both from a perspective of the practitioner and their knowledge and understanding of the female body, and then the messages that we've been told our entire lives. This is a very, systemic, cultural, deep-seated sort of experience that we're dealing with, that we're fighting against, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going, okay, well, shit. Well, shit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, shit is right.
Rachel, can you speak into those studies? I think that's really important. And I think we need to say it again, is that medical research has for centuries been on male bodies about men.
Yes. So the reason for that is because men are simpler. I mean, to put it bluntly, they have all the same hormones that we do, but just on a very different level. And they don't fluctuate. They basically go through 2 life changes. They go through puberty, and then they go through andropause, and that's it.
What's andropause? I've never heard of that before.
Basically like menopause for men, where their testosterone level starts to decline. And that's basically it. And the andropause is more of a shift, not a change. Like as drastic as puberty is for men and women. But so they don't have, there's not all of these fluctuations all the time. And so when you're developing a study and the study design, not having all of these different factors to account for is helpful, it simplifies it. And so for years and years and years, they just studied men and then they just would extrapolate that information to a woman. So in 1994, the National Institutes of Health finally mandated that they had to include women in the studies of, medications and things like that. So any, old blood pressure medications, cholesterol medications, you name it, they were only tested on men. So we don't even really know that what they are supposed to do in women is actually what's happening.
Right. So one of the many reasons why the medical industry is failing women or has failed women.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. It's moving from, which is the point of this conversation, it's shifting from a one size fits all approach to we are very different, not just male and female, but individually. We are so different. I was just talking to my best friend who's my age. We went to high school together, and she's in full-blown menopause already, hormonally. It's why, the things that we learned yesterday in this conversation, she's like, I'm in full-blown menopause. I'm 45 years old, and I just had a miscarriage. I'm like, how does that even happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does that even happen? Well, her body's her body. It's unique. You wouldn't think that a 45-year-old woman would be in full-blown menopause. Mm-hmm. But treating people as a one-size-fits-all is failing us as women. And yet there's still something that needs to happen, which is why this conversation is so important to me, is that women need to know that your medical care needs to extend beyond what you're being given as an option through traditional health insurance options. Like just go to your primary care physician, blah, blah, blah. And many people avoid, so Rachel, this question's for you. Many people avoid stepping outside their comfort zone, which we could say that's a comfort zone.
Yes.
Because they believe it's the safest option. Going to a Halcyon may not feel safe. It's new. I know my husband had that reaction when I told them about the work that I had done with you and that I'm going to continue to do. He's like, well, is it safe?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's safe. What's a common misconception about making these changes or stepping into a new way of care, Rachel?
I think the biggest one is just what you said. It's safety. Am I going to hurt myself? Is it safe for me? What are the side effects? Am I going to, is it going to cause me problems down the road? I think that's probably by and large the biggest concern that people have when they're coming in. The other thing is that, we, again, as women, we've been taught not to trust our feelings and what's going on in our body, and that, again, it's normal. And so when you start to experience these things, you're afraid to even mention it because you're like, oh, it's probably nothing. And so I think, as a practitioner in this space, it's really important for me to ask questions to kind of help elicit those things from patients so that they feel comfortable. Like, this is an open space. You can talk about whatever it is. And it may not be related, but it might. And so it's not wrong to feel them or to express them. And I think that's another reason why we don't get heard, because of this kind of oppression that we've had over the years. We don't feel comfortable expressing ourselves. So that's I would say the biggest concern is that they're gonna, be marked as a complainer, and that the things that they're going to be getting from me here are going to be risky for their body and their ultimate health. And that's not the case. And part of it is because they're hearing it from other physicians.
What are they hearing? What are they hearing specifically?
Well, a big one for men and testosterone is that testosterone causes your blood to be thick, and it's going to increase your risk for stroke and heart attack.
Really? For women?
For men.
For men,
and then
okay.
for women, women don't need testosterone.
Yeah.
That it's going to cause them to grow a penis. Grow a beard and have, body, excess body hair.
Right.
They're also hearing that there is a level that you want to, that there's an optimal level. And I shouldn't use the word optimal, that there's an average level that if you're there, you're fine. And one thing about that, sort of speaking to the discomfort, is that, someone said to me once, if you're on a Southwest flight and the pilot walks out of the cockpit and he comes up to you and he says, "Do you mind flying this plane? I have something going on. I don't feel good. Can you get behind the wheel," so to speak? And obviously, no, that's not going to work. I don't know anything about the plane. I don't know what it means to fly a plane, all these things. And it's kind of the same thing when it comes to our bodies. We are the experts on our bodies. And to ask a practitioner who has spent 7 minutes with us to fly this magnificent plane is unfair, right? And so being able to come into these sessions with the right practitioner, or even when someone is only giving you 7 minutes and saying, "I want more. This is what's happening in my body. Let me tell you about it, because it's an important part of how you treat me." And that's uncomfortable for women for the reasons Rachel said. It's uncomfortable for people in general, because I think we put, doctors sort of up on this pedestal. And really, we have to remember that we know ourselves best, and to trust ourselves, and to trust that when we're feeling off, we are off, and that there's a solution. So yeah. I know I kind of derailed your thing about testosterone, but I've personally heard from an endocrinologist, you don't need a level this high. That's a masculine level. And my response to that now, having been educated as a patient, is I feel amazing. I don't have excess hair growth. I'm not, turning into a man. And I feel I have the energy that I used to. I have I'm developing muscle mass like you would expect from being, spending time in the gym, all these things. I feel good. I know I'm the pilot here, and I'm going to tell you that this is what's right for me. That's definitely hard to get our patients to understand that and to take that role.
Yeah, it's hard to get patients. It's hard. A money coach, so, speaking from my perspective, I have clients who do not go to the doctor at all, even with health insurance, because they are terrified of making the investment. They believe it's going to cost them a fortune, or they're afraid of what they're going to find out and that they're not going to be able to afford it. And I feel like that in and of itself is doing a huge disservice for people, not only for women. We don't want to speak up. We don't want to sound like we're crazy. We don't want to be invalidated. And then what if it costs me $10,000 and I can't afford that? All of those things combined, I feel like, are the perfect storm right now for women, and the perfect opportunity for us to just blow the lid off of it altogether.
Yeah, it's kind of like a payment plan on your health. Because if you start investing now, you're not going to experience the $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 catastrophe when you're in your 50s and 60s. And we have an abundance of evidence that those things actually happen. People have a tendency to think, this won't happen to me. And it's quite unfortunate, because it's very clear that women are having heart attacks. Women are having strokes. I have 2 friends and I'm 48 that have had strokes in their 40s and in their 30s. That's wild. So these things are happening, but if you start now while you feel relatively healthy even, and start sort of, like I said, putting a little money into that bank and building up, by the time you're at that point, you're not going to be experiencing the ailments that most of our population suffers.
I totally agree. And that's edgy. And let's lean into that because of the things, and Rachel, I'd love for you to share what are the things that women believe are normal that are not normal?
Oh my gosh, that's a big question because there's a lot of things. So I would say a big one on the top is that it's normal as you get older to have a decline in your libido and not want to have sex. Like, I've had patients or people, friends, tell me like, well, they're 65. What are they doing having sex at that age anyway? And it's like, you don't want to be having sex at 65? Like,
Yeah. Intimacy is an incredibly important part of our mental health.
yes, absolutely.
Great
Yeah.
point.
So that's a big one. And then there's some other, definitely like there are obvious stuff like the hot flashes and night sweats. Those are things that happen. But things
Wait,
that
those aren't normal?
well, they're normal, but they're a sign of dysfunction. So
Okay. That's good to know. I mean, I would, so many women just tolerate it and
yeah,
endure
yeah,
it.
yeah. No, they don't have to. They don't have to.
Okay.
Itchy, dry skin. Most people will, attribute it to our climate here in Vegas. But as we get older, it really gets drastically worse from a decline in our hormones. And so, having an increase in itchiness and dryness is not normal.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that. I didn't know that. That was a huge wake up call for me when I heard Tabitha say that because I get itchy for no reason. I've showered, I've lotioned,
Emotion, yeah.
and my whole body is itchy. It's been happening my whole life. And my mom's remedy for anything was take 2 ibuprofen and drink some water.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's because that's what their gynecologist told them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that's a big one. Incontinence is, I get that all the time. Well, this is normal. I've had 2 kids. Like, I'm supposed to pee my pants. It's like,
No,
no.
that's a big
You're
one.
not supposed to pee your
No,
pants?
you don't.
Every time you
Yeah.
Super common, but not normal for that.
every
to
time
happen.
you sneeze, you're not supposed to pee your pants?
I think another big one too that I've also experienced is the anxiety and depression. And it's not necessarily characterized as that by women. Oh, I just, yeah, I'm tired and I don't, yeah, I mean, I feel like nervous about things, or it's like life just seems too hard to take. But it's just because I'm a mom. I have a husband, I have a household to maintain, I have a full-time job, and I get it. It's just part of my life. And that's not true. And I personally, I've struggled with hormone imbalance as well my whole life. And before Rachel started treating me when I was in my 30s, I had a similar experience with a doctor who prescribed me Prozac. And there is absolutely no shame in taking antidepressants. I just want to make that clear. But for me, for many years, I was postpartum and depression and took Prozac. And prior to that, took Prozac. And I would say sort of taking it for years, right? And since I have been on hormone replacement therapy for the last 8 years, I haven't had to take any antidepressants. And Rachel experiences that a lot. She'll get patients that say they've gone to a doctor and expressed some of these feelings, and they've said, here's some Xanax and Prozac. And again, in some instances, Prozac is not a Band-Aid, it is necessary for healing. But in a lot of instances, if there's an underlying hormone imbalance, it is truly just a Band-Aid. And Xanax, of course, is absolutely. And it's not going to help sort of treat the root cause of what's happening in your bodies. And that's a big one. That's a not normal one.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the forum of physicians that I'm a part of, they say a lot. Yeah, I don't think she has an SSRI deficiency, which is what Prozac is. I think it's probably progesterone. It's like more likely progesterone deficiency than SSRI. So yeah, it's pretty.
Something that I teach in my own workshops as it relates to mental health is that women ages 45 to 55 are taking their own lives and taking their own lives, but and also getting divorced and all kinds of things. Shit hits the fan, and that's because of our hormones a lot of time.
Yeah, they've recently, I think, published some statistics about the percentage of women that experience suicidal thoughts, and it drastically increases between the ages of like 42 and 48. And that's like, it's very generalized, but a common time to go through perimenopause. And perimenopause is no man's land. Like, anything goes. And every single person that I see and treat is different. And so, you go, if your gynecologist has this list in their head of things that are normal for perimenopause and you don't fall in there, they're going to be like, I don't know, it's not, it's not perimenopause. If they can't test a lab value to prove it, they're going to say, I don't really know, you're having periods, so you're fine. And so then they leave that appointment feeling lost and alone, really, and just kind of not being heard, and that perpetuates their feeling of
Depression,
it's the different term I was thinking of. It's
isolation.
yeah, isolation, and just feeling completely lost and alone. And I had a woman just the other day, like, came in, and I said, so tell me what brings you in, and she just burst into tears, and it was like kind of a drastic shift recently, and she hasn't been able to get any answers, and she doesn't know how she can continue to function this way. And it's a desperation that they're feeling.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that we can all relate to that at some point in our lives. And also, it's such a huge wake-up call for me, even not realizing how important hormonal health really, really is. Yes, perimenopause is normal. Yes, menopause is normal. I even went, so we're in Vegas. There's a show here called Menopause.
Yeah.
Oh,
Have you been?
Yeah, I haven't been.
Okay.
It's on the strip.
You
I've
have
seen
to
it.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I left that show terrified of menopause because of all of the stereotypes. It was just addressing and making fun of all the stereotypes of menopause. And I was like, this is not empowering
No.
at all.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Get me out of here, right?
Yeah.
And so Halcyon is an example of what's possible. And I want to shift the conversation in this direction. So for those of you, we've talked about what's not working in the quote unquote wellness industry, which is actually more of a sick industry. Money directly correlates into this, because I know that there's someone listening to this going, yeah, well, concierge medicine is just for rich people. At this point, there are a lot of things happening in the upper echelon of wealth, and a lot of people that I know and all over the country have already moved to concierge health because of the level of access that you have, and are trying different kinds of therapies like stem cell therapy. And so, yes, it is going to cost something. The question is to you, the listener, what do you want it to cost? Because you can keep doing things the way that you're doing things, and you can keep being a connoisseur of traditional medicine. And if you're stuck and you're not getting your needs met, what is it really going to end up costing you? And we hope it doesn't end up costing you all the things that we just spoke into. So to shift from a broken model to a health model, a wealth model, let's talk specifically about how Halcyon is flipping the script on health today. So can we talk about your core services, whichever one of you wants to lean into that, but more so why? Why are these core services so important for a woman who's ready to take on her health today?
Well, I think one of the things, you said it, is we are not a sick medicine practice. We are a well medicine practice. And for a lot of doctors and insurance companies, that's not necessarily a moneymaker, right? Because with hormones, it's a bit different because it does require a long-term commitment to taking hormones. But for some of the other things, when you're a healthy person, we're not going to see much of you, right? And that's okay for us. We think that there is enough with the hormone work, first of all, that requires a true partnership with a wellness professional who's going to support you, just like in anything, like having you support me in my money journey, or having a financial advisor or an accountant. It's the same concept, right? You want to have someone who's sort of an expert to support you on that journey. So that's the first part of it in Rachel, is that we also feel very strongly, both of us, we have lived this way and are living this way and want to encourage women and men to live this way. And it sort of speaks to that taking responsibility for your health. Yes, in a lot of instances, supplementation and the traditional prescription is necessary to support your body just because of the world we live in. But there's also a lot of other things that you can do to support your health that are very accessible and easy, like deep breathing, meditation, exercise, walking, all these things. And doing those things and making them a part of your life will drastically improve your mental and physical health. So that's how we set this up. Is we set it up to first obviously support you in your hormone and sort of quarterbacking your healthcare. And then we offer contrast therapy, which is sauna and cold plunge therapy. That's a great therapeutic exercise you can undertake to support your hormones, to support your mental health, and Rachel can speak to that. We also do IV therapy. We believe greatly in your body is full of minerals and vitamins, right? And that's what makes us function optimally. And we see a lot of depletion in that because of the food we eat, because of stress, because we're living way differently than we used to live. And so we believe in supplementing that, in improving the quality of your life and your health through supplementation. So we have IV supplementation, vitamin shots if you're not into the IV. And we also have a series of nutraceuticals that we will sell here that we make available to the patients. So yeah, that's the model right now. And then just encouraging people to incorporate those things that we often discount into our lives in a way to manage. It's almost like a prescription, right? If your doctor gives you a prescription for blood pressure medicine, you're going to go take it, right? Because you don't want to have a heart attack. If a doctor says you need to meditate to manage your stress, you might be more inclined to do it. So it's kind of like that. Our RXs include contrast therapy, IV therapy, meditation, grounding, breath work, all those things.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
I love it so much. It's whole health.
Yeah, whole health.
Whole health. And you don't just need an IV because you're hungover.
No, absolutely not.
Hey, we're in Vegas. I got to talk about Vegas stuff, right?
Yeah.
It really speaks to taking your health on in a totally new way. And to answer any Debbie Doubter that's listening, yes, it's going to cost money, but it's not as much as you think. It's not as much as you think to have access to people who are going to spend time with you, listen to you, figure out what's really going on, help you have not just hormone replacement, but bioidentical hormone replacement. What's the difference, Rachel, between traditional hormone replacement and the ones that you're using?
So basically there's two types of hormones. They're synthetic. Well, I should rephrase that. All of them are synthetic because they're made into a pill. But you have the molecule that is created into the pill that's either bioidentical, meaning, or body identical, meaning it is the exact molecule that your body used to make when you produced it, versus something that is not identical to what your body usually makes. And so really it's referring to the difference between Premarin and Provera, which are the synthetics or the not bioidentical, and everything else, because pretty much everything else is bioidentical. So it's how your body recognizes that. So, you were born with estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, all of these things. And your body is used to dealing with those day in and day out. And then they start to decline and we start to see the changes of that. And then we want to boost them back up, but we give it some other molecule that it's never seen before. And now we expect it to do the exact same thing that it did its whole life. And it has to figure it out. And then the downstream byproducts of that might not be so good for us. And we start to see side effects like joint pain and weight gain and maybe headaches and just generally not feeling good. And so when you give it what it's known its whole life and you're just supplementing and boosting what it's already known, it can just assimilate that right into your system without any kind of hiccups.
I love that. What would be possible for someone, because ultimately what this all boils down to is that not feeling well is not normal.
Right.
And for women, we don't have to settle for that model anymore. And so by understanding these small distinctions and knowing that there are people like Rachel and Tabitha in your hometown, if you're listening and you're in Vegas, or all over the planet, because this style of medicine and practice is becoming real time more accessible, is that you can make the investment to feel good. And here's my question for you. If you felt good all of the time, what would be possible for you in your financial life if you felt good? Such a powerful thought. So yes, invest in these services and these opportunities, but what are you going to get back in that return on investment? And Rachel or Tabitha, whoever wants to answer this, what are you seeing real time in patients, and the changes that they're making as a result of working with you and Halcyon?
Well, I mean, most of the time what I see is I see two things. I have some people that come back and they feel literally on top of the world. They're like, I had no idea. I'm sleeping amazing. My sex drive is through the roof. I'm able to get to the gym, and I'm not sore, feeling broken down. I'm losing weight. I'm doing all these things that are really positive. And then I have those that are like just super amazing, and then
Wow.
Superhuman. Mm-hmm.
feel superhuman. And then I have these other ones that like are almost in tears because I gave them their life back. They had no idea how bad it was,
Right.
until they started to feel normal.
Feel optimal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people come in feeling, fine. And they're curious about what kinds of things I have to offer because they want to kind of maybe mitigate risk in the future. They're feeling fine. They don't really feel like they need anything, but they want to make sure they want an insurance policy so that they stay that way. And then I talk about the hormones, and they're like, "Yeah, let's try it." And then they come back and they're like, "Oh my God, I had no idea that this was a thing for me. I thought I was normal, and I wasn't, and then they just feel so much better. So yes, they're optimal, but they might not even be optimal yet. They're just so much better than they were prior. So
I was just going to say one thing that we didn't really hit on, and we probably don't have enough time, but we've talked about the surface symptoms of hormone imbalance. But there's a lot of other things that make hormones so important in our body and in our long-term health. And when you talk about the expense, I sort of think about, like I said, as a short-term or long-term investment. This is an anecdote, but I was riding an electric scooter the other day, and I've been on hormone replacement for 8 years, and I've been doing weightlifting. But I was on an electric scooter the other day out in my neighborhood going about 15 miles per hour, and I flew off of it. And I crashed and burned. And I thought about it a lot afterwards. I was by myself. I was pretty shaky when I got off, and I was scraped up, and I had a rug burn on my hip, and I landed on my wrist. And I've thought about it a lot since then, and Rachel and I spoke about it, and I didn't break my arm. Okay. And this is a big deal. I'm 48 years old, and there is a lot of women at my age who haven't had the hormone support and haven't had weightlifting, which is another RX Rachel likes to prescribe. And your bones become way more brittle. So your bone density decreases substantially. So there's also all of these sort of underlying systemic positive things that are happening, and that also will, like I said earlier, avoid or postpone damage in the future. So I didn't break my arm. I didn't have to no ambulance came. I didn't have to go to the ER, and there's costs associated with that. So if you're sort of a sick person or relatively healthy, but kind of getting sick, your insurance is going to feel cheaper right now. But the longer term impacts of staying sort of healthy and not really dealing with these things is that your body starts to crumble. And I mean that figuratively and literally. And there's so many other things systemically that the hormones support that we could get into mentally, neurologically, all these things. It's not just what you see on the surface and what you feel on the surface. It's thinking about the future and how your body ages.
Long story short, get your hormones checked out.
Yes.
yes, please do.
And also realize, which is something else that I learned from Tabitha a couple weeks ago, is that your markers are being marked in traditional medical systems according to a mass of people. You can probably do a better job of explaining this. So what might be normal on a marker from a normal lab may not be best or optimal for you. And so it's time to start thinking critically about what's best for you. And for the women that are listening to my podcast, I know you're on a mission to live a quality of life. Get your money together, get your health together, get your businesses together, get your marriages together. This is a key that can unlock a whole lot for you if you're willing to step outside your comfort zone. What would be possible for you if your energy, clarity, and vitality were at 100%? What would you be able to unlock for yourself? Because yes, there are emotional reasons why you're avoiding your money. And those are all the things that I deal with in my world, mindset, beliefs, past history, those things. But if we can unlock your hormones at the same time and you wake up feeling good, you're going to actually probably want to take more risks and do the work. And I think that's really cool. All right, I've got some questions for you. We're going to flip-flop.
Okay.
So I just like to have a little fun toward the end of the podcast.
Okay.
And so, Rachel, you're going to go first.
Okay.
They're either or questions. We call it rapid fire. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Biohacking or bubble bath?
Biohacking.
Yeah. Cold plunge or hot sauna?
Ugh, cold plunge.
Yeah? Oh, I'm a hot sauna girl. IV drip lounge or day at the spa?
Day at the spa.
I love that for you.
Mm-hmm.
More money or more energy?
That's tough, but more energy for sure.
More energy. I would agree with you, actually.
Yeah, same.
I would agree with you. Okay, Tabitha, your turn. Ready?
Ready.
Private island retreat or wellness mastermind in the mountains?
Wellness mastermind in the mountains.
I love that. Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Financial freedom or hormonal harmony?
Hormonal harmony.
Yeah. We can have both, though, right?
We can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Work hard or heal hard?
Heal hard.
Hell yeah. Okay, last one. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Luxury bag or concierge health?
Concierge health.
All the way.
All the way.
All the way.
In.
All the way.
Yeah.
All right, Tabitha, this last question is for you. For someone who's listening and they feel stuck and they're ready for change, but they don't know where to start, what's one practical step they can take today to shift their mindset and move toward a life that they want?
Okay. I was thinking about this one. For me, Rachel and I talk about this a lot, actually. What you fear, right? You usually haven't taken that down the road of what would happen if what I fear came to be. What would happen if I lost all my money, right? Would I be homeless? All these things. And when you walk that down, when you carry that all the way through, I think what you'll discover is what you fear really isn't that scary, right? That living a life that is not authentic, that living a life that is not fulfilling or true to you is way more of a sacrifice than it is not being able to pay your car payment 1 month. So I think for me, just sort of, my worst fears, sort of teasing that out all the way and really thinking about what the worst case is and comparing that to not taking a step forward, I think you'll find that step is far more worth it and far less scary.
I would agree with you. Thank you for sharing that. Choose your health, women. Choose your health. Choose to take a step in the direction of your health today. That is our call forward. Rachel, what does it look like to work with Halcyon? If someone's listening to this, they're ready to pick up the phone or send you a message. What does it look like for them so that they can take that first step?
Well, once you make an appointment with me, we'll sit down together and I'll spend a good 45 minutes to an hour going over every little thing that you want to address. So I talk a little bit about, I have you tell me like what your dream goal is out of our partnership. And then if I'm not getting a whole lot of information, then I might ask you questions to tease out some more things that you might not realize are issues in your life. And then I talk to you about how I might help you to get to that dream goal that you mentioned at the beginning. And then, it's traditional medicine in some respects. Well, I'll order some blood work, and then when you come back, we'll go over that line by line, what all of these things mean, how I can help you to improve them if they need it, and then what if necessary, what hormones would be helpful to reach the goals that we want to, in terms of like biological markers, but also in terms of how you feel and function.
I love that. That's the first step. And it's financially, I can say, knowing all people's financial landscape, it's absolutely affordable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It absolutely
Yes,
is.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep. So check it out. Check out Halcyon. Concierge medicine is the path forward. Finding physicians who care enough to listen to you is the path forward. Your hormones are the path forward. And I'm so grateful to know each of you. I'm grateful for the work that you're doing in our hometown. And I'm so excited to continue this conversation for years to come. Thanks for being here at Real Money.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah. Information on how to reach Halcyon and Rachel are in the show notes. Shout us out on social media. Let us know what you learned from this episode. Let us know the one step you're going to take today as a result of being a part of this conversation. And I'll catch you next time with another amazing guest right here at Real Money. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for listening to Real Money. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and let us know what you love about the show. Your feedback is invaluable as we continue to empower women to take control of their financial lives. Until next time, keep thriving and remember, you deserve real money.